Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority. And may we use our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen. Amen. Thank you all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Here.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Here. Okay, this brings us to our first public comment portion. And to start the meeting off on a positive note, we have our clerk reports, Faith Andrews, who has some good tidings to share with us. Faith, the floor is yours, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Commissioner. In case you don't know, but most of you do, that I am a public servant who is very passionate about supporting our men and women in uniform, from the military all the way to, police officers. We do not defund the police in Lake County, and I have been proud to work with the commissioners to fund the COPS grant over a 4-year period, and I recently made my third installment, promises made, promises kept. And over this 3-year period, I've transferred from title surplus $1.5 million to assist with the funding of the COPS grant, which puts additional deputies in the townships of Perry, Concord, and Paynesville.
Taylor, come on up here. Don't be shy. No, you keep talking. She's
Okay.
going to get pictures.
I have heard from Perry Township Trustee Bob Dawson. I did read this letter from him, but he basically he said that he appreciates that funding and that it absolutely is having a major impact, a positive impact, a huge difference in the community. So it is for that reason that when I was asked by Commissioner Hammercheck and also Jason Boyd, as well as the sheriff, to fund phase 2 of the gun range, I considered it, and I took a field trip, and the sheriff was kind enough to show me around and talk to me about what was planned for phase 2. I mean, he's right. The days of police training by shooting targets, paper targets, and then going to work in the field are no longer acceptable. Today's training has to integrate every aspect of policing, such as driving, defensive hand-to-hand tactics, verbal confrontations, and the ability to de-escalate or escalate if necessary. Requires specialized expertise to effectively and safely simulate real-world scenarios. Officers must make critical decisions while evaluating any number of conditions and physical requirements. Accomplishing this training in a safe and secure environment enables officers to learn, improve decision-making, and prepare for critical incidents before they occur. The new complex is going to have still live fire range, 2 training buildings. Training center is going to provide access to classrooms for weapons training, legal updates, defensive tactics. The really good news is that we're going to be able to train, all police departments will be able to train and use this facility across Lake County. It's going to give us the ability, our officers, to be able to train together and work as a team. I couldn't be prouder to make, and I have, on June 19th, I sent a letter. Dear Commissioners, County Administrator Jason Boyd, and Budget Director Michael Matus, I'm in receipt of Mr. Boyd's emails dated February 28th and March 1st relative to certificate of title funding for various projects. In that regard, as provided for in Section 325.33 of the Ohio Revised Code, I wish to declare an excess of $300,000 and request that it be transferred to the general fund, and respectfully request the surplus then be allocated to fund Phase 2 of the gun range project for Lake County. This should fund the entire phase. So, again, I am proud to be part of this effort. I do support, it is very, very important that we have safe communities so that people can thrive. They can bring and raise their families here, they can start a business here, and you know, it's important for economic development. People aren't going to come to Lake County if they don't feel safe, and I'm going to do everything I can to work with the commissioners and the sheriff to make sure that they do. Thank you.
Faith, thank you so much for your generosity. Appreciate the support. Gentlemen, anything you want to add?
Mr. President,
Sir.
I'd just like to thank Faith and being able to provide this facility. I think what people don't or may not realize is this is going to save money to every community that has a police department. A lot of our police departments are aged beyond their capacity and need to be rebuilt. We just seen Willoughby is going through that right now. To put a gun range with an old paper target in one of those buildings is probably $1 million. So if you can live in any of those communities, that community is going to save that $1 million by not having to do that in their facility and being able to use this facility that is state of the art. So I thank you, and it's going to be well beyond our years, hopefully a legacy that we can all be proud of.
Mr. President,
Sir.
I also want to thank Clerk Faith Andrews, but I want to extend that thanks to her staff as well, because there's only a surplus in the Title Bureau Fund because of the folks who work every day so that they not only don't require subsidization from the Commissioner's office, they actually return money to the taxpayer, and that is a very unusual thing. For a government agency to give money back is quite remarkable, and so we thank Clerk Andrews and all the staff that work under her for their efforts in this regard, because it has funded some pretty important projects over the last 2 years. The COPS grant has been transformational for the townships. We've heard from the sheriff for years that there hasn't been sufficient patrol in those areas, and Perry in particular went from 0 to 60 in the sense that they didn't have any patrol, and the kind of stops they've had and the guns and drugs that they've taken off the streets, they were shocked. They didn't know what they didn't know until our sheriff deputies started to go into their community and protect and serve. So that is a true and great benefit. And this shooting and training facility, this new range for the sheriff, once again, is a huge benefit to the county, but not just the sheriff's office. We're going to have every single policing agency in the county eligible to use this facility. Some of them would build their own otherwise, as Commissioner Regovich said. Others pay good money to send their police, to send their officers to other counties and other places to get the training that they need. And they absolutely need the training, but it's so much better that we can provide it to them right here for free. This is going to be a huge asset to every law enforcement agency in Lake County, and we thank Clerk Andrews for being a part of it.
Excellent. Excellent. If I could just echo and amplify just a skosh. I believe that we also need to be cognizant that this training facility is as much about training of don't shoot. These experiences that are going to be gleaned in a virtual environment will allow our officers and deputies to make good decisions based on the facts set before them, so it's not as though they're encountering something for the first time. So that if deadly force is used, they will be doing it from the best practice perspective and not from fear or overreaction. That this is all fact-based, it is all part of continuing training and education so that we do indeed have the finest law enforcement in the state of Ohio. So with that, again, Faith, thank you for starting our meeting off so well. Mr. Music, I believe you wish to speak.
John Music, 45 Coventry Drive, Painesville Township. I just want to thank Faith and her staff for doing that. Just remember, and I've said this many times here, without law enforcement and our military, we won't even have a country. So thank you, Faith, and to your staff for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to address the board at this time? Anyone else? All right, very good. Moving on. Madam Clerk, first agenda item.
In the Utilities Department, resolution approving plans, specifications, and estimates of cost in the amount of $232,749.55 for Capitol Parkway Sanitary Sewer Extension in Concord Township, job number 22-42.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, nothing? Okay. None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution certifying unpaid water and sewer sums and administrative charges to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Resolution
Authorizing execution of an engineering agreement with Manick and Smith Group for the 1-acre landfill cell liner project 474L 2023 for the Lake County Department of Utilities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Randy, this one's so exciting, you have to share with us.
Sure, this is one of the many projects that we've been doing out of the landfill to get that final expansion up to the 25-year capacity at the landfill. So this is just another phase of that.
Now, you gotta tell people what a cell liner is now. We can't go without knowing.
Sure. Essentially, it's not just dumping garbage into a hole. It's actually very sophisticated engineered construction. The cell liner is about a 3/7-inch thick piece of plastic that lines the entire cell, so liquids and other things can't penetrate into the ground in the area. It's essentially like that liner continues after construction over the top of the cell, so water can't enter, and it's like a large garbage bag is what we're putting all the garbage in. And 1 acre, this is just the next segment of that.
And any rainwater, groundwater, snow, cumulative water that comes off in the form of, what do you call it, leachate, that's processed and dealt with so that there's no contamination. Those are all, again, the reason I'm going into this detail, there actually is a lot of science that goes into this.
There is. The amount of monitoring that goes on at the landfill is remarkable. We deal with EPA for our water system and our wastewater system in individual departments at the EPA, but the landfill actually deals with air quality with their landfill department, with their groundwater department, and their surface water department at the EPA. So it all goes into that.
Excellent. Thanks, sir, for that background.
You're welcome.
Gentlemen, anything further? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of an engineering agreement with Environmental Design Group for the Aquarius Raw Water Pump Station Traveling Screens Replacement Project 470W 2023 for the Lake County Department of Utilities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In Job and Family Services Department, resolution authorizing execution of service contracts between Catholic Charities Corporation, Ohio Guidestone, Harbor, United Labor Agency, and the Lake County Board of Commissioners on behalf of the Lake County Department of Job and Family Services to provide workforce services for program year 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? For those of you who may be following along, it was just a one-word addition because of a clerical error. Harbor was added to the title, but it was in the body of the document being voted on. So if there's nothing further, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
And the Commissioner's Office, resolution authorizing the Lake County Administrator to execute an agreement for purchase and sale for real property located at 175 East Erie Street in the city of Painesville, Ohio.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing advertising for bids for a bullet recovery system for the Lake County Crime Laboratory. Bid opening July 19, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution amending the Lake County Board of Commissioners regular meeting schedule beginning April 6, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing payment to various Lake County police prosecutors for the first half of 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $1,709,208.05.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $1,257,265.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing an appropriation for a non-general fund account.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring cash and appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. All right, moving on to departmental reports. Utilities.
Thank you, Commissioner. We do several public service announcements throughout the year, and one I'll throw out today is there's a industry with flushable wipes where they advertise these wipes or baby wipes as being able to be put down the toilet, and that's perfectly okay. It really is not perfectly okay. They play havoc with our pumps where we have to pump sewage. They play havoc within our main sewers and also in individual laterals, the connections from the house to the street. So just want to reiterate, and we've said it before and we'll continue saying that, is to get the word out that there's nothing good about putting those down the toilet. They will cause problems either with your own line or the public line, and they are quite a maintenance headache for us on a daily basis.
So is it safe to say in a low flow environment, they tend to settle out and they kind of roll up like a carpet when there is a moderate to high flow event?
You could say that, yeah. Ordinary toilet paper. We actually did a video a couple years ago that we have on Facebook where we did a demonstration where just putting toilet paper in a bottle and shaking it, and it pretty much goes away in about 10 seconds. And the flushable wipe will be there 10 or 15 years from now.
Very good.
Mr. President,
Sir.
as a former landlord, I feel very strongly about this issue. Do not flush wipes down the toilets. Not just the public utilities, but your toilet may not work if you continue to flush those. Toilets are very simple devices. They're basically a hole in the ground, and enough of those wipes will plug the hole. It's a nightmare. Nothing but toilet paper down a toilet. I completely agree with our Department of Utilities.
Mr. President,
Sir.
I believe it was New York City a few years ago, had them balled up to the size of a house, and it plugged up one of their main sewers, and it took weeks to break it up and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Definitely a problem.
All good? All right, thank you. Moving on to Job and Family Services.
I can't follow that discussion, so
Nor
no
do you
report
want.
today.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Madam Clerk.
I'm going to have to follow that, I guess. I'm going to speak on the changes in the schedule that we adopted today. The first one is that the meeting scheduled for July 6th has been canceled, and we rescheduled it for Wednesday, July 5th at 10 a.m. And we also scheduled a commissioner meeting for the week of January 13th. We were not going to have a meeting that week, but now we are. So there's one July 13th at 10 a.m. that has been added. So I want to let you know. And our next meeting will be our usual Thursday, next Thursday, June 29th at 10 a.m.
Very good, thank you. And legal, Mr. Hackman tells us you have your dissertation that you're going to be presenting. It should be under an hour.
No, Commissioner. No report, Commissioner.
Okay.
Some things never change.
Some things never change. I tried. Okay, if there's nothing there from legal, do we have any old business? Moving on to old business. Hearing none, moving on to new business. Do we have any new business?
Mr. President,
Sir.
every June 25th, we celebrate Slovenian Statehood Day, which is the formal recognition of Slovenian independence from communism. There's going to be a lot of celebrations this week, ranging from Proud to be a Slovenian Day in Harper's Field to Cleveland Independence celebration in Cleveland City Hall this evening. So for all those who celebrate Slovenian independence or of Slovenian descent, we remember.
Very good, thank you. All right, any other new business? Hearing none, moving on to our second public comment portion. Mr. Massey.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Massey, 8196 Rainbow Drive, here on behalf of Lobbyists for Citizens. I noticed on the agenda that we purchased some land, and I'm just wondering what parcel of land is that we purchased? Has it got a name to it? Is it a building associated with it?
We took your house, Brian.
Yeah, okay. Well, good news is I won't have to pay property taxes on it.
What made you think that? Taxes are forever. It's the closest thing to immortality. Ronald Reagan said so. I believe you're going to find that that is the property commonly referred to as Burger King.
Burger King,
I'm
okay.
looking to get you the exact.
Yeah, that's fine. No, as long-
But are you satisfied?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's fine. I just wanted to know. I have two items just to make the commissioners aware, projects that we're working on. The first one is, I want to keep you aware of the initiative to protect Lake County children and parental rights, certainly in the schools. I've mentioned to you that I have filed a police report with the Mentor Police. I've had correspondence with the prosecutors for Mentor on the Lake, and also law director. I've decided to go to the state level. I've written a letter, I mailed it today, to the Attorney General, David Yost, and I've also sent letters to Senator Serino, Representative Callender, and Representative Troy. I'm looking for someone, we at the local level and or at the state level, that's going to do something about Ohio Revised Code 2907321, pandering obscenity in the schools. Having these pornographic books is unacceptable to me, and it's unacceptable to many, many, many people in the community, and I'm just trying to see if there are our elected officials can help us out, because there doesn't seem to be much movement on that area. So that I'm just not asking you to do anything. I'm just informing you of what we're doing, and I will continue to keep you informed. Again, if I don't hear from the Lake County prosecutor, I'll assume that office is begging off the problem, and they're going to hand it off to the state. I also, second item is I spoke to several citizens. They've been obviously watching the prior commissioner meetings when we're talking about the jail and the road and bridge issues in Madison, and they were asking me and giving me some opinions, and I told them that right now we're at the highest number I've heard is $170 million for the jail. I know that we're going to have to spend probably $4 or $5 million to get a firm number from the consultants. It may exceed $170 million, but they were asking me, is there an upper limit to the cost that the commissioners will throw up their hands and say, we just can't afford it with our current financing? I mean, if it comes in at $200 million or $230 million, do we say no mas? We can't. We just can't do it. So that was one question I have, and they're concerned because of the inflation increases and also the shortage of labor and the supply chain issues. There's a real possibility that we're going to be over $170 million. I've already advocated that we do need a new jail. That's not an issue. It's just that the darn cost seems to be maybe getting away from us. The other was the Madison roads and bridges. Megan, these were people, that are concerned about the community, and they don't think there should be any closed roads or bridges, in the community, and they're wondering, well, why can't we fix it? And I said, well, we're looking for $16 million to fix, at least to fix all of the problems, And then they keep coming back to me, well, can't we have priorities? Can't we ask the engineer to say, this road or this bridge is the utmost importance and we need to fix that first, followed by second and third? And I don't know if I've heard that. It may have been mentioned, but I have not heard that from anyone, from the commissioners and or the engineer, that says Ford Road, or I don't remember all the roads, but no one has actually said this one has got to be fixed first. So if we could do that, it seems to me that we could at least, we don't have to spend the 16 million, maybe it's $1 million, $2 million, $5 million to, fix the number one problem in the roads. And so they were saying, well, where did we get that money? I said, well, we got $114 million. I've heard from the commissioners, if we were to clean out everything for all of our accounts, we'd have $114 million. There's $70 million. I don't advocate that. I don't advocate, stripping all the accounts out with no any rainy day fund at all. But we had $70 million that, without skipping a beat, that we could put towards the jail. And then I found out about we have by the end of the year, I'm told that we may have $11 million coming in from the interest income, and we only, I think, budgeted, I don't know, $3 or $4 million. So there's going to be a surplus of cash that's coming in from interest income. Now the question is, all right, do we take that $7-8 million, do we put that towards the jail, or do we fix the roads and bridges? So I'm looking for some guidance from the commissioners. What do I tell the citizens that are asking legitimate questions of how do we prioritize? I know we'd like to do everything, and I know the commissioners would like to do everything. I'm just wondering, what do I tell the people in the community about how do we fix that? At least fix the one bridge, whatever that bridge is, so that the people can get egress or ingress, to their, throughout their community. So if you can address that, at least the issue of, is there an upper limit on the jail where you say we can't afford it with our current financing? And are there priorities for the roads and bridges in Madison that we could do right now because we've got the cash? Thank you very much.
So while you're there, The Bluest Eye, you shared an excerpt from that book, which
Yes.
is obviously a depiction of rape, incest, and that is a verified document. I believe that was a topic of discussion at our recent Mentor School Board meeting.
That is correct. We did publish an article where we had 9 residents that were that spoke before the Mentor School Board, asking them to remove that book from the school. The Mentor School has a procedure that they put it before, I think it's a 10-member committee that will read the book and determine whether or not it's pornographic. That was not good enough for me, and this was Patrolman Greco saying that he did contact Craig Heath, the superintendent of the Mentor Schools, and Officer Heath, thought that Officer Greco thought that by speaking to Superintendent Heath that he had solved my problem, but I said, no, that's not acceptable. And I said, well, what are the prosecutors of Mentor going to do? And he said that's basically above his pay grade to make that decision. So the Bluest Eye is just an example of the pornographic material. Citizens have reviewed other books, and there's certainly other books that are pornographic in the Mentor schools, and I dare say probably in other Lake County schools. It seems to be permeating all of our Ohio public schools. So we're just saying we cannot usurp the rights of the parents, and the schools do not have the right to show this pornographic material to the children.
again, although this board has no authority over the Mentor Public Schools, I can, again, as I've said in the past, I'm going to speak as a father, as a grandfather. The example of this the bluest eye, it was clear and unambiguous, a depiction, very graphic, of rape, of incest. I cannot imagine there being any literary value associated with that. I find such literature to be repugnant. I use the word literature only to describe it as a written word in a book form.
But there are school board members and a mentor school board that would disagree with you. They believe that particular book, and we have the one school board member, I won't mention the name, but we do have on video, school board member declaring that that book is not obscene, in her
Out
opinion.
of curiosity, why won't you mention the name? I grow tired of people saying, I won't mention the name.
All right, Virginia.
We get our butts flamed over silly little things
that's a
like printer available reports. If somebody is going to be perpetuating such activities as this, why won't you say their
All
name?
right, that's a fair criticism, Commissioner. Virginia Jelznik, I believe I pronounce her name.
Thank you. I think the public
J-E-S-C-H-E-L.
has a right to know who is advocating this as being of literary value or not being pornographic or not being in violation of the law.
The other issue was there was one resident that asked the board and the superintendent. She wanted to know, stand up if you believe that this book is pornographic and should not be in front of the children. The only two that stood up were Annie Payne and Tom Tuttle. The other three, including the superintendent, Craig Heath, did not stand up, therefore told us that they do not believe that this book to be obscene. And that's going to be a real challenge for the Mentor School District because they want to pass a 2.5 mil levy as a capital improvement levy, and that's going to be a real challenge for them because they have awakened a sleeping giant in Mentor schools, that there's going to be some serious pushback. And I dare say that's going to permeate Lake County schools. If we do the auditing of the schools from this book standpoint, and we find more books, we're going to challenge them, each and every one. And I'm just wondering if Attorney General, Dave Yost, will help. And so I will, I'll keep you informed on that. It's very, very important to me. Like I said, it's a line in the sand type issue with me.
Very good. Sir, thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioners.
Mr. President,
Sir.
if I may, I'll address the other questions you have. At the last meeting, the roads and bridges,
Yes, sir.
I've met with the engineer, I've met with many people, I met with the clerk of courts to get some help there too. She's agreed to help there too. So we're putting something together, and the engineer was kind enough to give us not only what the priorities are, but how it's going to be. And they're already doing the engineering on these things, so we can hit the ground running. And our goal is to keep on his timeline as to getting those closed. His first priority roads open.
Super, that's exactly what I was looking for. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
As far as the jail goes, I'm sure there's a number where we can't,
Yeah.
but there's also more funding statewide because we were fiscally responsible in the past here in Lake County. We're penalized. So we have
Is that right?
We
Oh.
have to get to the state, not just, the poorer counties that get the money for jails because they've authorized a lot more money for jails. We need to get to our state reps and say, hey, we need a significant portion of that here, especially if we're shovel ready or ready to go. So those are some of the avenues that we should also look at so that we have some state buy-in. It used to be $50 million they would have. Now they have like $150 million, if I understand, depending on when the budget passes. So we'll see what the end of this budget is, and we'll start pursuing those alleys too. So that our cost, we can maybe take on some of that, what we expect to increase.
Thank you very much. Anything we can do to help, please let us know. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Sir.
to Mr. Massey's point on the bluest eye, I want to quote Justice Potter Stewart. I know it when I see it. A person of good sense and good conscience knows obscenity when they see it, and I don't see how anyone could read the excerpts that have been shared with the commission, the newspapers, the public, and not conclude that the book is absolutely unacceptable for children. Absolutely unacceptable. But sometimes the only solution, as tragic as it may be, is a political one, which is why it's important to know who stood up for the children and who didn't. Ultimately, school boards have a lot of authority. They set the curriculum for our kids. And if you think that that is acceptable material, I think you're an unacceptable school board member.
Thank you for your opinion. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
All right, is anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Gilda Spencer, 5580, the famous Ford Road in Madison. I'm here for a civic lesson. I will tell you what I have done. I called my trustees and I asked if they could send a letter to the Lake County Sheriff's Department covering us for when they couldn't come out. And so they had one of the officers call me back, and she told me that that wasn't necessary, that if it was a gun issue, everybody would be out. Okay, I get that. The only thing with that is, and I chuckled, there's not a house on my road that doesn't have a gun. I mean, we all have varmints and coyotes and everything else. So she said that if it was a priority matter, they would come. So when you go down my road, if you're in Perry, you're on the one side, you're in Leroy, you're on the other side, and you're in Thompson. So I called the school board because we don't have busing. We have to drive our kids. So I didn't get a response back, so I called yesterday, and I got the secretary. The person I had spoken to before was the assistant superintendent. And she said, oh, well, she said, we weren't going to call you back because she said, we're just leaving it status quo. I said, well, okay. My grandson is in high school, so he would not be covered under this because they don't have to bus him. But I have 5 families out there that have elementary kids. They're in 1st and 2nd grade. And they have babies that they take and haul every day to get there. So for me, that's unacceptable, and I'm not sure how to proceed with that, but I will look into it. But what I came to you for today is I would kind of like a civics lesson. When it came to you that my road is closed, then what happens? I mean, I'm almost a year down the road with this, and I don't see anything happening. So I need to know what your perspective is and how this works.
I'm trying to reconcile your use of the word civics lesson.
Okay, well, that would tell you how old I am.
No. It's not that. I'm trying to.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how you work.
And that's fair, and I'm trying to frame a response to that. Annually, the county engineer provides road and bridge reports, and we have Tracy in the audience, so if I say something that's not correct, throw something at me. We get annual road and bridge reports of conditions of roads and bridges, their status, everything including pavement condition, overall structural integrity, that type of information. Especially in the townships, there are presentations, I believe it's statutory, where the county engineer reports to the Township Trustees Association on those very reports where they're openly presented and discussed. This board receives those same reports, and we are routinely invited to those Trustee Association meetings. The state of Ohio, and I'm looking to legal if I say something that's inaccurate, roads and bridges are titled to the Board of Commissioners. The responsibility for the maintenance, construction, and other such activities associated with those roads and bridges statutorily under the jurisdiction of the county engineer. So far, so good. I'm looking at my 2 experts in the room. There is case law that would support the funding by the general fund of such activities. Historically, in Lake County, we have enjoyed a county engineer's office that has been able to, I'm going to use the word forage for funds.
Okay.
Because at this point, it's not a matter of just going out and making application. You've really got to do some digging. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the one source of funding, fuel tax, is actually divided equally among all 88 counties. So you could have Podunk Nowhere and you could have Cuyahoga County getting the exact same amount of money. Just like Lake County, the exact same amount of money. And also dollars are divvied up based off of center lane miles, not lane miles. So if you've got a 2-lane road, one coming, one going, that gets the same amount of funding as 6 lanes, 3 coming and 3 going. Just to give you a little bit of background of exactly the nuances that our engineer has to deal with. And again, Tracy, if I say anything that's incorrect, please insert yourself in the conversation. When this board became aware of that foraging effort reaching a logical end, we were made aware of it, and as you've seen, spirited discussion. I don't think any of us disagree that these roads and bridges need to be addressed. What is a matter subject to fair debate, and I'm looking to legal on this, is how we're going to pay for it. I know we're working diligently to arrive at something that would be mutually agreeable to all. As has been indicated, the engineer's office is doing the engineering. That is something that has to happen whether there's monies available or not. But in order to put a shovel in the ground, we have to show financial ability to proceed. I believe that's called an auditor's certificate of fund availability. Before that can be obtained, we have to say where there's dollars available. I'm looking to legal. Am I doing good so far?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to look over at my professor here. How am I doing so far on my civics lesson?
Well, Mr. President, I would just add one practical addendum to what you've stated, which I agree with. Yes, case law. Yes, the law certainly supports the ability of the federal government, the state government, the county government, or the township government giving additional funding to the engineer at any level. So when the engineer forages for funds, he gets a combination of grants from different entities. But state law does give the engineer about $10 million a year, which is essentially what is supposed to be the main funding source for these projects. Grants are above and on top of. Bridges and roads are on depreciation schedules. It's very predictable roughly when they're going to end in their useful lives. So as the commissioner, as the president said, the engineer has these reports. There's no such thing as a surprise. I mean, a bridge might last 1 or 2 years longer than expected, or 1 or 2 years less, but you know roughly when a bridge is coming to the end of its useful life. It's not typically a shocking thing. Occasionally you have a rare circumstance like Kirtland Hills where a bridge, fails halfway through its projected life, but that is rare. And I don't think that we're surprised by these schedules. I do think that there was a bit of a misunderstanding early in this discussion that the commissioners were uniquely responsible for this situation. It's absolutely clear, shall maintain. It is the requirement of the county engineer's office to make sure these roads and bridges are open and accessible. I will always be a powerful advocate that the engineer prioritizes roads and bridges. It's his most important function. We can legally help, as can the township trustees, as can the state legislators, as can your congressman. But I think that when you lose sight of who is ultimately the authority and who's responsible, then you don't know who to push. Because ultimately the only person who can decide to put a shovel in the ground is the county engineer. We're in a position, like the trustees, like the state legislators, to help potentially if we can find additional monies to do so. But ultimately, you want to have an engineer's office that has a long-term plan to make sure that when a bridge predictably reaches the end of its useful life, we're ready to deal with it. We can't be in a position of treating every bridge or road that goes out of capacity as a surprise, because it's not a surprise. Nothing lasts forever. And while we can't predict the exact day or week, we can come very close. We certainly know the decade in most cases. There's no such thing as a storm or a crisis in these cases. You have predictable schedules. And if your schedules aren't predictable, if you're not keeping a close eye and you don't know which bridges are reaching the end of their useful life, you're not keeping a good enough schedule. So we need to make sure that going forward, we absolutely have a plan and that we aren't looking for extraordinary funding sources, because they won't always be available. The reality is county government does not have unlimited money. The state does not have unlimited money. the answer can't be, well, if I need more money all the time. That you have to have a plan, that you have priorities for the money that you do have, because there may not be extra money. That will not always be the solution. And county government is very interesting because we have independent elected officials running some of our departments, but we have employees running other departments. If there's a problem with Lake County Water and Sewer, the commissioners can command the director, fix this problem. On the other hand, if we have a disagreement with the prosecutor's office or a disagreement with the engineers or the treasurers, those are all independent elected officials. And they can throw up their hands and say, I disagree with you, I'm going to do it my way, for better or for worse. That's the way local government works. So when you're dealing with an independent elected official, the commissioners are not in a place to command any of those folks. We work with them, we advocate, we push, but we're not in charge of them either. So we all bear responsibility for what our office entails. And I'm hopeful, as Commissioner Regovich shared, that we're reaching a solution. But as I've said before, it has to be a long-term solution, because much as I want to see Ford Road repaved, and I'm confident we will soon, once that's done, everyone on Ford Road goes home, but what about the next road and the next bridge and the next road and the next bridge? We have to be sure that we never reach a point where we throw up our hands and say, wow, we got another perfect storm. Here's 4 or 5 bridges. How are we going to pay for it? Given the predictability of wear and tear, we need to make sure that we have a plan in place so that this never happens again. It's unacceptable for residents like yourself that you're in this position. I strongly feel that this was not fair to the people who had to get a civics lesson and find out how the system worked, where one person told them, oh, if this person or if that person or if this person says so, we can fix it tomorrow. You deserve to know the truth.
Okay.
And with that said, and this is part of my reservation of addressing it purely from a civics perspective, speaking specifically to Ford Road, our county engineer, although serving with distinction for a number of years, did in fact inherit the Ford Road Bridge, which the original bridge had an addition of a dissimilar design, not in alignment with the body of water that it was spanning. And there's an old saying in engineering, water always wins.
We used to swim under there. I've lived out there 60 years, playing the culverts and everything.
Sure.
So I understand. It's just that I hear so many rumors, so many things, this is this, that people can't agree on it. So I'm coming to the horse. I have to find out, and I have to understand what's going on.
Thank you. Hopefully you're talking to the front of the horse, not the other. Legal, you satisfied that we stated accurately?
Mr. President?
Sir, actually, before you do that, we're good, right? You haven't heard anything that does not comport with Ohio law?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Part of the reason we don't get into any specific details here now is I don't want to perpetuate any rumors. So that if something, by the time we work this plan out, I want to make sure it's right and correct, and that we get the right information out, because we know there's a lot being said and going on, and we're trying to communicate with the townships and with everybody involved. So,
Okay, well, that would bring me to my next thing. What's going on out around by me is that you do nothing, that you're not talking about it, you're not doing anything about it. So I'm finding out. So, okay, thank you.
thank you for coming.
Okay, anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Anyone else? All right, and I'm just going to look to Tracy real quick. You were satisfied that the discussion was comported with engineering perspectives. Jim, I know you came into the room, but Tracy, you were satisfied we kind of hit the key points in fairness? Or did you want to add to the conversation?
No, that's okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, sorry about that. I just want to make sure that we put a nice bow on that one before we move on. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Lorraine Zepka. I live on Cascade Road, 7236 Cascade Road. And I know we've been talking about roads and bridges and all kinds of things today, but I'm here. I'm glad you pointed out who Tracy is. I'm here representing my husband. He's ill, so he couldn't be here. But he said that a year ago today, he spoke to the engineer's office about road signs for Cascade Road. At the intersection of Girdled and Cascade, the road sign was missing in June of last year, a year ago. And he called and he spoke to Tracy, And he said, could you please tell me how we can get our road sign put back up? And it's not been replaced. Then in September, the other sign was missing at the corner of Williams and Cascade, so we still don't have a sign up for Cascade Road. And it's a difficult place to find if you're not used to the area, although we do have more traffic coming through now with the Williams Road being closed and so on. But I'm not here to talk about those issues. I've heard a lot about that. Anyway, my husband said he spoke to you again in March of 2023 about a plotter that would be available to make the sign, some type of equipment that you have, and he hasn't heard anything back. So we're just wondering, and I don't know how much road signs cost. We just need something that says Cascade, and I'd like to just have those two things placed on the two areas where they belong. So how do we take care of that?
Well, I'm going to look to our engineer. So the survey says, again, do you want to talk offline or do you want to have that conversation here?
We can talk offline. I can answer here however you'd like, Commissioner.
Hey, come on up.
Come on.
You don't get a lot of microphone time.
Thank you for
That's
your
okay.
thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate it.
And thank you. And Tracy?
Okay. I'll address the resident, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have spoken many times about those signs, and we did replace signs, which were once again stolen. Unfortunately, for some reason, street signs are very appealing. I want to believe it's kids who take them, but they disappear frequently. So that is true. They were replaced. When I spoke to your husband regarding the plotter, it was a purchase that we were looking to make with new materials, because we were having the same difficulties that ODOT and some of the other municipalities were with getting the vinyl that we use to make the street signs. So we were going to purchase a plotter, which prints the signs. So now you're using ink instead. And we were very excited to get this. And then we ran into delays with Avery Dennison, who's the supplier, who couldn't get parts from China or wherever they were importing it from. And then, in all honesty, once we started having our perfect storm of projects and things going down, our plotter was put on hold in order to look at funding our other projects. Okay. So we're now going with state bid, and we're trying once again to get back on a list to purchase vinyl, which is the same reason State Route 2, all the overhead signs, they've been on order. You see if you drive at night, they're very faded, and ODOT's been waiting. It's almost a year now, we've been told, to have all those signs made as well.
Okay, understand.
I'm sorry, it's
That's
not
okay.
the best.
My
but-
brother-in-law works for McCormick.
Oh, ma'am, you're off mic.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
This is just a sidebar, but my brother-in-law works for McCormick in Maryland, and they've also had trouble with, since COVID, the reason that we have spices not available in other products like vanilla and things like that. The packages, the materials for the packages cannot be found. So I understand where you're coming from. So thank you very much. I will relay the information to my husband, and I can't guarantee that he won't call. He's a stickler about these things.
I know.
So you may hear from him again. But I thank you for your time today.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
And Tracy?
Mr. President?
Thank you. Sir.
I will say it's unfortunate what we see with the signs being stolen. I remember in Willoughby Hills, we even had one of our historic Ohio placards stolen. Literally by the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge, you drove by a couple of years ago, someone had hacksawed the sign off, and there was about 3 or 4 beer cans there, so we can wonder what they were up to. An elected official who will go nameless ended up finding the plaque, and we welded it back on because they're very expensive. But unfortunately, people will take signs that are literally cemented into the ground. It's incredible. So I'm sorry that you've been afflicted with this, and I know our engineer's office is going to work with all due speed to replace the signs again.
Sir.
Well, I was just going to say, John, I think your name on the Verlin Road Bridge is probably safe because it's attached to a pretty big block of granite.
I'm gonna refrain.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, moving on. Wow, before somebody ties that around us and throws us in the lake. All right, is there any other public comment? Anyone else wishing to address this board? Mayor Morley, anything you want to add, sir? It's such a good thing to see in the audience. Oh, there you go. There you go. Fresh popcorn, extra butter.
He kind of brings something to the room, doesn't he?
He does. He does. His smiling face, engagement of communication, that is just wonderful. All right, if there's nothing further to come before this board, we do have a request for an executive session. The topic will be litigation, legal. There will be no business to be conducted afterwards. Can I have a motion to adjourn for the reasons so stated?
I'll make the motion.
So moved, seconded.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes, thank you for joining us today.